The diamond felt like ice against my collarbone. That's what I fixated on, not the smear of peach lipstick on his collar, not the vanilla perfume clinging to his shirt that wasn't mine. Just that cold, hard stone he'd placed there 6 weeks ago, whispering promises of forever. Cold, like the dread crystallizing in my chest as I stood in the sterile glare of James's bathroom at 3 a.m. My name is Lena. I'm 28, an architect. I design structures meant to withstand earthquakes, hurricanes, the relentless pressure of time. Yet here I was, bare feet freezing on the marble tiles, feeling the bedrock of my world liquefy beneath me. James Carter was my seismic event. 32. A rising star in venture capital. A smile that promised adventure and eyes that seemed to see only me when they locked onto mine. We met a year ago at a rooftop charity gala, drowning in champagne and pretension. He'd bumped into me, sending a flute of expensive bubbles cascading over my disastrously overpriced rented gown. "I am so incredibly sorry," he'd breathed, his voice a low rumble that cut through the chatter. He wasn't just apologizing. He was devastated. He spent the entire night by my side, refilling my glass, making self-deprecating jokes, asking surprisingly insightful questions about load-bearing walls and sustainable materials. His charm wasn't flashy. It was warm, attentive, disarmingly genuine. By the time the stained silk was dry, I'd forgiven him. More than forgiven him. I was captivated. That was James, effortlessly disarming, or so I'd believed. I'm the practical one, the planner, the woman with color-coded schedules and backup plans for her backup plans. Falling for James felt like stepping off a cliff into freefall. Exhilarating, terrifying, and utterly out of character. That, I realize now, staring at the damning lipstick smear under the harsh light, should have been my first clue. My second clue should have been how perfectly he mirrored me. The love felt devastatingly real. It wasn't just the grand gestures, the surprise weekend in Napa Valley where we stayed in a vineyard cottage surrounded by lavender, the impossible to get tickets to that immersive theater experience I'd mentioned months in passing, the breathtaking solitaire diamond necklace presented over candlelit dinner on my birthday. "For my anchor," he'd murmured, his fingers brushing my neck as he fastened the clasp. "The only thing that keeps me steady in this crazy world." It was the small things. The way he remembered my coffee order wasn't just a triple shot latte, but a triple shot oat milk latte, served lukewarm. The way he'd automatically start rubbing the tension from my shoulders after a brutal day on a construction site, his thumbs finding every knot with uncanny precision. How he'd laugh until he cried at my terrible impressions of our clients. How he'd look at me across a crowded room, a secret, intimate smile playing on his lips, and I'd feel like the only person who truly existed. He cultivated that feeling, nurtured it. "You're it for me, Lena," he'd whisper, his breath warm against my ear late at night, his arms a solid band around me. My safe harbor, my future. I never knew it could feel this simple, this right. Just us. The us started feeling thin, translucent, like tracing paper laid over a flawed blueprint. Tiny, almost imperceptible fissures began to appear in his meticulously constructed reality. The first tremor, his phone. Always face down. A constant, low-level buzzing hive of notifications he'd dismiss with a careless wave. "Work, babe. Always bloody work. Can't catch a break." His tone was light, exasperated, believable, until I noticed the slight tightening of his jaw when a particular chime sounded. A flinch so subtle I almost missed it. The second tremor. The postponed weekends. Napa 2.0 canceled because a major deal imploded last minute, total nightmare. The cozy cabin getaway scrapped for an unexpected investor meeting in Boston, can't be helped, darling. His apologies were lavish, accompanied by extravagant bouquets or last-minute tickets to a show, but the excuses started stacking up, their edges not quite aligning. The timing felt off. The third tremor. The scent. Light. Floral. Expensive. Vanilla and jasmine, maybe. Lingerie on his skin after a late client dinner, different from the sharp cedar and bergamot of his usual cologne. Must have been the restaurant, he'd shrug, pulling me close. Place reeked of perfume. Crowded nightmare. But the scent clung stubbornly, a ghost haunting the space between us. My architect's brain, trained to spot inconsistencies, to see the stress points before they become failures, started applying its cold logic to James Carter. The timelines of his work emergencies didn't quite mesh. The names of colleagues he mentioned felt rehearsed. The warmth in his eyes sometimes seemed like a performance, a perfectly rendered facade. The betrayal wasn't a single shattering blow. It was erosion, a slow, agonizing grind, wearing down my trust grain by grain. Finding that peach lipstick, so distinctly not my shade, so carelessly left behind like a predator's mark, was the final crack splitting the foundation wide open. He lay sprawled on the bed now, snoring softly, utterly relaxed, a conqueror secure in his kingdom. The soft light from the hallway caught the sharp angle of his jaw, the sweep of dark lashes against his cheek. He looked beautiful, familiar, and suddenly, terrifyingly alien. The cold dread in my chest hardened into something else, something sharp, focused. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't insecurity. This was the chilling clarity of recognition. I was looking at a masterfully constructed illusion, and I needed proof, not suspicion, not heartbroken accusations. Evidence. The hunt began that night, in the deceptive quiet of his apartment. It wasn't frantic. It was methodical, precise, like surveying a site before demolition. The locked drawer, his sleek walnut desk, bottom right drawer, always locked. I'd never questioned it before. Tax stuff, boring paperwork. Tonight, I found the key taped to the underside of his heavy leather desk blotter. Inside, nestled beside a stack of innocuous financial papers, was a sleek, matte black phone. A burner, password protected, cold in my hand. The digital footprint. His main phone was clean. Too clean. Emails were professional. Texts were sparse. Social media meticulously curated. Pictures of us, landscapes, the occasional inspirational quote. But he'd once bragged, tipsy on expensive scotch, about his ninja-level hiding spots for digital secrets. A throwaway comment. Cloud within a cloud, babe? Undetectable. I remembered the name of the obscure cloud storage service he'd mentioned offhand months ago. Accessing it required his fingerprint. James slept deeply, especially after several drams of Lagavulin. His hand lay slack on the duvet. Gently, heart pounding like a trapped bird against my ribs, I guided his index finger to the sensor on my tablet. The vault opened. The hidden app, nestled within a folder labeled Tax Docs 2018, OLD, was an app icon I didn't recognize, a minimalist blue square. Opening it required another password. This one I cracked using the name of his childhood dog, mentioned once nostalgically over wine. Inside was a messaging platform stripped bare. Just contacts, 4 of them, and the threads. The world narrowed to the glow of my tablet screen in the pre-dawn gloom. The snoring beside me faded into white noise. I started reading. Sophie, 23, art student. Her avatar was a blurry selfie, vibrant red hair, laughing eyes. His messages to her were a torrent of passionate intensity. Your art destroys me, Soph. It's pure fire. Like you. Funding the studio is brutal right now, but seeing your vision come to life, worth every penny. He sent her pictures of abstract paintings, moody swirls of color. My latest, inspired by your eyes at sunset. Reverse image search later revealed they were stolen from a gallery in Prague. He painted her a future of bohemian bliss in Parisian garrets, fueled by passion and his fictional, artistic struggle. He was her tortured soulmate. Anya, 30, surgical resident. Her profile picture was professional, sharp, intelligent eyes. His tone with her was different, respectful, supportive, understanding. Another 36-hour shift. You're a superhero, Anya. Don't forget to eat. The pressure in VC is insane, too. Had to fire an entire team today. Brutal, but necessary. He sent pictures of complex-looking gourmet meals. Whipped this up after that hellish board meeting. Wish you were here to share it. Zooming in revealed the corner of a familiar high-end takeout container in the trash bin. He lamented the cutthroat nature of his world, using jargon he'd clearly memorized from articles I'd sent him about my projects. He was her ambitious, supportive partner, weathering their demanding careers together. Isabel, 35, divorcee, mother to Ben, 5. Her picture showed her smiling, a small boy with tousled hair clinging to her leg. James's messages here were gentle, steady, reassuring. Ben's dinosaur drawing is incredible. Future paleontologist? Stability is everything. What we're building? It's solid. He sent pictures of expensive boxed toys. Saw this and thought of Ben. Can't wait to build it with him. Toys I'd seen piled in the trunk of his car, explained away as for my nephew's birthday. He talked about security, about creating a loving home, about being a positive male role model. He was her safe haven, the dependable rock for her and her son. And then, me, Lena, 28, architect. His messages to me were a blend of intellectual sparring, deep connection, and future building. Your design for the Civic Center is revolutionary. They'd be fools not to pick it. Thinking about that plot of land upstate, our glass house overlooking the trees, you're my partner in every sense, Lena. My equal. My future. He sent pictures of us, of sunsets, of architectural details he knew I'd appreciate. He was my sophisticated soulmate, the co-architect of our ambitious life. 4 women. 4 entirely separate lives. 4 distinct futures he was simultaneously building. Each of us believing we were the sole occupant of his heart, the center of his world. Each of us meticulously played, our needs, desires, and vulnerabilities expertly mapped and exploited. The despair that hit me wasn't a wave, it was an implosion. A sudden, violent vacuum sucking all the air, all the light, all the sound out of the universe. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat on the edge of the bed, the tablet heavy in my lap, its screen casting a sickly blue pallor over James's sleeping face. The carefully ordered world I inhabited, the blueprints, the schedules, the predictable stresses of permits and deadlines, lay in ruins, demolished not by natural disaster, but by a con artist with a devastating smile and a cache of burner phones. The man I loved, the man I'd planned a future with, was a fiction, a beautifully rendered, emotionally manipulative illusion. The weight of it pressed down, crushing. The diamond at my throat felt heavier than stone, colder than ice. A brand, a lie. I reached up, my fingers trembling slightly, and touched it. His promise. His forever. A forever shared with at least 3 other women. I looked at James, peaceful in sleep, utterly unaware that his meticulously constructed house of cards was teetering. The raw, personal heartbreak was a physical ache, a vice around my chest. But beneath it, deeper, colder, was something else. A profound sense of violation. He hadn't just broken my heart. He'd invaded my reality, twisted my trust, used my love as a tool. He'd made me a fool. Sunlight began to creep around the edges of the blackout blinds, stripes of pale gold cutting through the gloom. Dust motes danced in the weak beams. I watched them, feeling utterly, devastatingly alone in the bed we shared. The blueprints of my life were worthless now, scraps of paper. But as the room lightened, so did something inside me. The crushing despair began to solidify, not into sadness, but into something hard, sharp, unyielding. The cold fury that replaced the emptiness wasn't blind rage, it was focused, purposeful, like the beam of a laser level finding its mark. James Carter thought he was untouchable, a master manipulator operating in the shadows. He was about to discover what happens when an architect decides to demolish a faulty structure, methodically, precisely, and with devastating finality. The blueprints for his downfall were already beginning to form in my mind. cold and clear as the diamond around my neck. The first phase was complete, the survey, the damage assessment. Now came the demolition plan, and it needed to be perfect. The dawn light, once a symbol of hope, felt like an interrogation lamp. James stirred beside me, a sleepy murmur escaping his lips as he instinctively reached for me. His hand landed on my rigid arm. I didn't flinch, didn't pull away. I lay frozen, my eyes fixed on the intricate pattern the light cast on the ceiling, the tablet with its damning evidence a cold, dead weight on the nightstand. The diamond pressed into my skin, a constant, icy reminder of the lie. "Morning, gorgeous," he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. He nuzzled my shoulder, his lips brushing the bare skin near the diamond's clasp. A wave of nausea, sharp and acidic, rose in my throat. His touch, once electric, felt like contamination. "Sleep okay?" His hand slid possessively across my stomach. Did I sleep okay? The question hung in the air, absurd. I'd spent the hours dissecting his digital harem, each message a scalpel slicing deeper into my sanity. The images flashed behind my eyelids: Sophie's vibrant hair, Anya's intelligent gaze, Isabel's quiet strength, Ben's trusting smile. The futures he'd sold them. The future he'd sold me. "Not really," I managed, my voice sounding flat, distant. "Bad dream." It wasn't entirely a lie. This felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. He propped himself up on an elbow, concern etching his handsome features. "Aw, babe, what about—" His eyes, the color of stormy seas, searched mine with practiced sincerity. How many women had drowned in those depths? "Oh, I said, forcing a weak smile, turning slightly towards him. "The usual, falling, being chased by the ghost of your other lives. Just stress. The Henderson Project presentation is next week." It was a plausible excuse. Work was stressful, but it was a shield now, a convenient mask. He relaxed, pulling me closer. His familiar scent, cedar, bergamot, the faintest trace of expensive soap, usually a comfort, now felt like a suffocating fog. "You'll crush it, Lena. You always do." He kissed my forehead. My brilliant architect. The endearment, once a warm ember, now felt like a branding iron. His architect, one of his possessions. "Want me to make you that oat milk monstrosity you call coffee?" The offer, so normal, so domestic, was excruciating. He was playing the devoted partner, slipping back into the role effortlessly. He had no idea the stage was collapsing beneath him. "That sounds perfect," I whispered, the lie ash on my tongue. "Thank you, James." As he padded towards the kitchen, whistling softly, I finally exhaled. The performance had begun. My performance. Survival depended on flawless acting. I had to be Lena, the slightly stressed but loving fiancée. Not Lena, the woman who knew her entire relationship was a meticulously constructed fraud. The days that followed were an exercise in exquisite torture. Every interaction was a landmine. His casual touch sent shivers of revulsion down my spine. His compliments felt like venom. His plans for our future, the glass house upstate, the trip to Japan next spring, were grotesque parodies. I smiled, I nodded, I squeezed his hand, I kissed him goodbye. I played the part with the precision of a master thespian, all while the cold fury solidified inside me, forming a hard, crystalline core. Gathering evidence became my secret life, my sanctuary, my weapon, the timeline matrix. Using access to his hidden cloud storage and the burner phone, whose password I'd cracked, his mother's maiden name plus his birth year, gleaned from an old tax document. I mapped his movements with forensic detail, cross-referencing messages sent to each of us, calendar entries, both real and fabricated, credit card receipts, painstakingly reconstructed from photos I'd subtly taken, and location data, extracted from the Find My app he'd conveniently forgotten I had access to on his real phone. I built a chillingly accurate picture of his double, triple, quadruple life. He was a virtuoso of time management. Dinner with Anya at Le Poisson Bleu, 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., coincided with messages to me about a late investor call. A weekend visiting his sick aunt aligned perfectly with a getaway booked for Isabel and Ben at a family-friendly resort. The night he'd taken me to the opera, he'd sent Sophie frantic messages about being stuck in the office, accompanied by a blurry photo of a spreadsheet. The lie catalog. I documented his lies with detached precision. Not just the big ones, but the small, insidious ones that wove the tapestry of deceit. To Sophie, my parents never understood my art. They wanted me in finance, like my soulless brother. His brother was a music teacher. To Anya, I had to fire my assistant today. She was incompetent and stole client data. No record of an assistant named in his messages. To Isabel, Ben reminds me so much of myself at that age. So curious. He'd once confessed to me he hated children until he was 30. To me, you're the first woman I've ever truly trusted with my heart. A lie so vast it encompassed his entire adult life. Each lie was tagged, dated, and cross-referenced. The financial web. Tracing the money was harder, but revealing. Modest loans sent to Sophie via a peer-to-peer app. For art supplies, Angel, pay me back whenever. Expensive dinners charged to a corporate card he likely abused. Gifts for Isabel and Ben purchased with cash or untraceable prepaid cards. Our shared expenses? He was meticulous about splitting them, citing financial prudence for our future. The diamond necklace, I realized with a fresh stab of bitterness, was likely bought with bonus money he'd told Anya was tied up in a risky investment. The despair was a constant companion, but it had shape now. It was the weight of the evidence folders filling my encrypted cloud drive. It was the hollow echo in my chest when he kissed me. It was the phantom scent of vanilla and jasmine that seemed to haunt my apartment even when he wasn't there. It was the image of Isabel's son, Ben, trusting this man who saw him only as a prop in his performance. I cried only once, late at night in my shower, the water muffling the choked, ragged sobs that felt ripped from my soul. The grief wasn't just for the love I'd lost. It was for the person I'd been, trusting, open, hopeful. That Lena felt buried under an avalanche of betrayal. The woman emerging from the steam, eyes red-rimmed but hard, was someone else. Someone capable of demolition. The cold fury became my fuel. James thrived on chaos, on emotional outbursts he could manipulate. A screaming confrontation in a restaurant? He'd charm the onlookers, paint me as hysterical. A public social media post? He'd spin it, claim I was obsessed, lying. He'd use his charm, his connections, his practiced sincerity to weather the storm. Number. His downfall needed to be structural, elegant, undeniable. He needed to be hoisted by his own petard, his love for grand gestures, his narcissistic need for admiration, his pathological belief in his own invincibility. The kernel of the plan formed during another of his working late nights. I was scrolling through our encrypted group chat, a lifeline we'd established tentatively after my initial evidence-backed contact. We called it the reality check. The anger was palpable, a raw, vibrating energy in the digital space. Sophie. He just texted. Stuck in Berlin finalizing gallery contracts. Lies! He sent me a pic of his studio here in the city yesterday. Anya. Berlin. He told me he was prepping for a crucial funding round in Palo Alto all week. Sent a selfie outside some generic office building. Isabel. He's supposed to be taking Ben to the Science Museum Saturday. Promised him weeks ago. Said he cleared his schedule. Me. He told me he was going hiking with his college buddies this weekend. Sent a blurry picture of some trees. Sophie. He's literally the worst. Anya. The level of coordination is almost impressive. Sociopathic, but impressive. Isabel. What do we do? I can't. I can't look at him when he comes over. Ben adores him. What could we do? We had evidence, yes. Mountains of it. But exposing him individually? He'd deny, deflect, charm his way out. We needed simultaneous, undeniable exposure. We needed him to walk into the trap. We needed a grand gesture. His kind of grand gesture. An idea, cold and sharp, pierced the fog of anger. It was risky. It required perfect timing, unwavering nerve, and absolute trust between four women who were strangers, bound only by betrayal. But if it worked, it would be poetic, devastating, final. I typed slowly, carefully. Me. What if we give him exactly what he wants? A grand public gesture, but we control the narrative. We turn his stage against him. The responses were hesitant, then intrigued, then cautiously electrified. Over encrypted calls and coded messages, the blueprint for Operation Single Exposure took shape. Phase 1. The bait. James loved being the romantic hero. I needed to dangle the perfect opportunity. During one of our reconciliatory dinners, initiated by me, playing the part of the slightly insecure partner needing reassurance after a stressful period, I planted the seed. We were at a cozy bistro, candlelight flickering. I pushed my food around my plate, sighing softly. "Everything okay, Lena?" he asked, his hand covering mine. His touch still made my skin crawl. "Just feeling disconnected lately," I murmured, looking down. "Work, life. It feels like we're ships passing in the night sometimes." I looked up, letting my eyes shimmer slightly. "Remember that magical dinner at Le Jardin's Secret? When you got us that impossible table under the glass atrium? It felt so us. So focused. Le Jardin's Secret was the pinnacle of exclusivity in the city. James had bragged for weeks about securing that table. His ego was deeply invested in it. His expression softened, the hero sensing a damsel in distress. "Oh, darling, I know things have been hectic, but you are my focus, my anchor." He squeezed my hand. Le Jardin's Secret, that was special. I was thinking. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice conspiratorially. Wouldn't it be amazing to recreate that, but bigger, more declarative? I let the word hang. A surprise, something that silences everything else, something that shows the world. I trailed off, looking at him with wide, hopeful eyes. How we are. I saw the spark ignite in his eyes, the narcissistic gleam of someone envisioning the applause, the admiration, the envy. A public declaration of his devotion on his terms? It was catnip. Like a surprise dinner at Le Jardin? He was already calculating, his mind racing. "Exactly!" I breathed, injecting excitement into my voice. "But not just for us. Well, for us, but witnessed, you know? Something bold, something that shuts down any doubt." I was careful not to be too specific. He needed to own the idea. "Maybe Valentine's Day? It's so cliché, but—" "Valentine's Day at Le Jardin's Secret." He savored the words. "Lena, that's inspired." He beamed, the master planner taking over. "Leave it to me. I know the owner. I'll make it happen. Something spectacular." He puffed out his chest slightly. "The grandest gesture, just for you." He leaned across the table, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. "My forever girl." The nausea surged again. Forever girl. How many of us had heard that? But I smiled, a dazzling, grateful smile. "Oh, James, that sounds perfect." The trap was set. He'd taken the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Phase 2, the uniform. James loved coordinated spectacle. I suggested matching outfits. "Wouldn't it be fun? Like a team, our own secret signal." He'd loved the idea, predictably. "Cobalt blue," he declared. "It's stunning on you, Lena. Regal." I didn't mention it was also Isabel's favorite color, or that Sophie looked incredible in bold hues. I designed the shirts myself. Simple, elegant cuts. High-quality cotton. The front, a clean, minimalist graphic, a single diamond fractured into sharp, geometric shards. The back, bold, sans serif lettering, team single. I ordered 4. Size small for Sophie and me, medium for Anya and Isabel. Cobalt blue. Phase 3. The invitation. James, predictably, Left the booking confirmation in his shared calendar app. Surprise V-Day dinner, Le Jardin Secret, 8 p.m., table under atrium, for Lena. He couldn't resist documenting his own grandiosity. We had the time, the place. Sophie, with her artistic flair, designed the digital invitation. It mimicked James's preferred style: sleek, modern, slightly pretentious. Gold embossed text on a deep blue background. James Carter requests the pleasure of your company for an exclusive evening of surprises and celebration. Your presence is the final piece. Le Jardin Secret, 7:45 p.m. sharp. Valentine's Day, dress, smart casual, cobalt accent encouraged. Sent from a dummy email account meticulously crafted to resemble his business address. The phrase, "Your presence is the final piece," was a subtle, cruel nod to his fractured promises. Phase 4. The Coalition Trust was fragile but growing. We communicated daily in the reality check, sharing updates, venting fury, bolstering each other's courage. Anya used her connections. Her former roommate was dating the sous chef at Le Jardin. A discreet conversation ensured we'd be seated at a specific, highly visible table near the center of the atrium. Isabel's cousin, a freelance videographer specializing in weddings, was hired for a discreet documentary project, paid handsomely from funds we pooled. His camera would be small, unobtrusive, focused on our table from the bar. Sophie sourced tiny, powerful audio recorders disguised as elegant brooches. We rehearsed, not lines, but reactions, the silent entrance, the shedding of jackets, the deliberate arrangement around the table, the unified expectant silence, the look. We agreed on minimal verbal confrontation. Our presence, our matching shirts, and the sheer, undeniable fact of us would be the indictment. We practiced maintaining icy composure. James would expect tears, screams, accusations. We would give him silence and unity, the ultimate rejection. Phase 5. The Personal Reckoning. While the group plan took shape, I prepared my own private demolition. I quietly moved essential belongings out of his apartment. I consulted a lawyer presenting the evidence folder. The diamond necklace? It wasn't a gift in the legal sense, she explained, but given the circumstances of the engagement, proven fraudulent, I had a strong case to keep it or claim its value. I opened a new bank account. I told my closest friend Sarah, a tightly edited version. James cheated, badly. It's over. I need your support. No questions asked yet. She, bless her, didn't ask. She just hugged me hard and said, "Whatever you need." The days crawled towards Valentine's Day. James was buzzing with self-satisfied excitement, dropping cryptic hints about the spectacular surprise. He bought a new suit. He practiced his romantic look in the mirror. He was performing for an audience of one, himself, utterly oblivious to the 4 women synchronizing watches for his downfall. The night before V-Day, I sat alone in my apartment. The evidence folders were closed. The team single shirt hung in its garment bag. The audio brooch lay on my dresser. My suitcase for Iceland was half-packed in the closet. The diamond necklace felt heavier than ever. I took it off. For the first time in weeks, my collarbone felt bare, vulnerable, but also free. I held the cold stone in my palm. It wasn't a symbol of love anymore. It was evidence, collateral. The seed money for my escape. The despair was still there, a deep, resonant ache, but it was no longer paralyzing. It was the foundation upon which the cold, hard structure of my resolve was built. The fury was a focused beam. Tomorrow, James Carter would walk onto a stage he thought was his own. He would find his audience waiting. 4 women, 1 color, 1 message, 1 meticulously engineered moment of truth. The blueprints were complete. The permits were secured. The demolition crew was ready. All that remained was the final walkthrough before the walls came tumbling down. I placed the diamond necklace carefully in a velvet box. Tomorrow, it would play its final role. Valentine's Day dawned brittle and cold. Sunshine glinted off frost-covered windows, a deceptive sparkle. James texted early, "Tonight is going to be unforgettable, my forever girl. prepare to be amazed. Love you. The words were like shards of glass. Unforgettable. He had no idea. Love you. The lie had become grotesque. I dressed with deliberate care, sleek black trousers, a simple silk shell, a tailored blazer, armor. The cobalt shirt was carefully folded in my bag. My phone buzzed incessantly in the reality check. Sophie, nerves are fried. But ready. Team single assemble. Anya, confirmed. Table secured. Pierre, maitre d', is prepped. Cameras ready. Isabel, Ben is with Mom. I'm shaking, but focused. For Ben. For us. Me. Deep breaths. Remember the plan. Silence is power. Unity is the weapon. See you at the rendezvous point. 7:30 sharp. I met James at his apartment for pre-dinner drinks, playing my part perfectly. Admired his new suit. Acted flustered and excited about the mystery evening. He was radiant with self-congratulation, pouring champagne. To us, Lena, to forever starting tonight. He clinked his glass against mine. The sound echoed like a death knell. I sipped, the bubbles tasteless on my tongue. He talked about the future, our future, the glass house, Japan, his latest big deal. Each word was a hammer blow on the coffin of the life I'd thought we had. Should we head out? He asked, checking his Rolex, a gift from Anya I recalled bitterly for his promotion. Want to make a grand entrance? He winked. The grandest, I agreed, forcing a smile. My stomach churned. Le Jardin Secret lived up to its name and reputation. Hidden behind an unassuming door in a quiet street, it opened into a breathtaking glass atrium. Lush greenery climbed the walls, twinkling fairy lights mimicked stars, and the air hummed with the discreet murmur of wealth and romance. James swaggered in, oozing confidence, greeting the maitre d' like an old friend. Ah, Monsieur Carter, your table awaits, Pierre intoned smoothly, his eyes flickering almost imperceptibly towards me. Our inside man. He led us through the packed restaurant. James held my hand tightly, possessively, basking in the admiring glances I knew were actually directed at the exclusivity of the table, not him. We reached the central atrium area. Pierre gestured towards a secluded circular booth nestled among towering ferns, partially shielded but offering a clear view of the room. Our private oasis, James whispered theatrically in my ear. Just for us. He stopped short. The booth wasn't empty. 3 women sat there, backs straight, faces composed. Sophie's vibrant red hair was a shock of color against the greenery. Anya's intelligent gaze was fixed ahead, sharp and unreadable. Isabel sat with quiet dignity, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. They wore elegant jackets over cobalt blue fabric. Confusion flickered across James's face. Then irritation. Pierre, there seems to be a mistake. This is my private table. Pierre gave a slight, polite bow. No mistake, Monsieur Carter. Your guests arrived early. He stepped aside. James's eyes scanned the table, his brow furrowed. He saw Sophie first, her face impassive. Recognition dawned, followed by shock. His gaze snapped to Anya, utter disbelief, then to Isabel. Raw panic flared in his eyes, quickly masked by a bewildered smile. Ladies! What a surprise! Lena, did you? He turned to me, seeking explanation. Rescue. I met his eyes. For the first time in weeks, I let him see the coldness, the utter absence of warmth or love. I didn't speak. I simply reached up and unbuttoned my blazer, slipping it off my shoulders to reveal the crisp cobalt shirt beneath. The shattered diamond graphic gleamed. Slowly, deliberately, I turned, showing him the bold, clean text on the back. Team single. Sophie, Anya, and Isabel mirrored my movement in perfect, chilling unison. 4 jackets shed, 4 cobalt shirts revealed, 4 shattered diamonds, 4 declarations, team single. The effect was instantaneous and electric. The color drained from James's face, leaving him ashen. His jaw slackened. The smug confidence evaporated, replaced by dawning, abject horror. He looked from one face to another, Sophie's defiant stare, Anya's icy contempt, Isabel's profound disappointment, my cold fury. He looked like a man realizing the ground beneath him wasn't just crumbling, it was gone. The bouquet of stargazer lilies he'd been holding, my supposed favorite, they made me sneeze, slipped from his grasp, hitting the plush carpet with a soft, final thud. The restaurant hadn't been silent before, but a perceptible hush had fallen as we'd shed our jackets. Now, the silence was profound. Every eye within view was locked onto our tableau. The clinking of cutlery stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. "James," Sophie chirped, her voice unnaturally bright, cutting through the silence like a knife. It carried perfectly. "Surprise!" The false sweetness dripped with venom. "We thought we'd help you celebrate," Anya added, her voice cool, precise, and perfectly audible. A surgeon delivering a diagnosis. "Turns out you've been a remarkably busy boy." Her gaze swept over him with clinical detachment. Isabel didn't speak. She simply looked at him, her eyes filled with a mother's protective fury in the deep betrayal he'd inflicted not just on her, but on her trusting son. Her silence was louder than any shout. James stared, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly. He took a half-step back, bumping into Pierre, who stood impassively nearby. He looked like a cornered animal, his eyes wide with terror, scanning the faces of the women he'd manipulated, the patrons staring in judgment. His carefully constructed persona, the charming, successful, devoted partner, was evaporating under the glare of the atrium lights and our unified, silent accusation. My voice, when I finally spoke, was low, calm, and colder than the diamond I'd left in its box. It cut through his ragged breathing. "You promised forever, James." I held up my phone, the screen displaying a split-second collage. A message to Sophie about art, a dinner pic sent to Anya, a promise about Ben to Isabel, a whispered "forever" to me. "We just didn't realize you were offering it to everyone." I paused, letting the image sink in for him, for the rapt audience. "Team single," I said, my gaze sweeping over my fellow soldiers. "Reporting for duty." The dam broke. Stammering, incoherent denials tumbled from his lips. "Lena, this is..." "It's not what. Girls, please. There's been a terrible misunderstanding." He reached out a shaking hand towards me. "Baby, listen." I didn't flinch. I just looked at his hand, then back into his terrified eyes. The message was clear. "Don't touch me. You are nothing." He saw it. He saw the implacable wall in my eyes, in Sophie's defiant glare, in Anya's icy contempt, in Isabel's shattered trust. He saw the silent condemnation of the entire restaurant. The performance was over. The audience was booing. The curtain was crashing down. With a strangled sound, part gasp, part sob, he turned. He didn't look back. He shoved past Pierre, stumbling slightly, his expensive shoes catching on the fallen lilies. He half ran, half staggered through the hushed restaurant, a gauntlet of silent, judging stares towards the exit. The heavy door slammed shut behind him with a resonant thud. The silence held for a beat longer. Then a slow, scattered applause started from a corner table. It grew, hesitant at first, then more confident, rippling through the room. Not for us, perhaps, but for the sheer, undeniable drama of it. For justice served cold and spectacular. Sophie let out a shaky breath, a genuine, relieved smile breaking through. Anya nodded once, sharply, a job well done. Isabel closed her eyes for a second, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek before she wiped it away, squaring her shoulders. I felt no triumph, only a profound, bone-deep exhaustion and a strange, soaring sense of release. It was done. Isabel's cousin gave a subtle thumbs up from the bar. The footage was captured. Perfectly. The edited video, expertly cropped to protect our identities but leaving James's horrified face crystal clear, hit 4 newly created, verified social media accounts simultaneously at 9 a.m. the next morning. The real Lena. The real Sophie X. The real Anya MD. The real Isabel Ben. The caption was succinct. To the man who promised forever to all of us, meet Team Single. Exposed our cheater, a karma, bar Valentine's Day. The internet did the rest. It went supernova. Within hours, number Team Single was trending globally. News outlets, hungry for a sensational, zeitgeist-capturing story, pounced. The Valentine's Day revenge, cobalt blue justice, dating app nightmare exposed. James's full name, his workplace, his carefully curated LinkedIn profile, all were splashed across screens. His firm, inundated with calls and facing a PR disaster of epic proportions, issued a terse statement. Mr. Carter is no longer associated with this firm, effective immediately. His family distanced themselves. We are shocked and deeply saddened. Friends evaporated. He became a meme, a cautionary tale, a pariah. Our victory wasn't his public annihilation, though that was undeniably satisfying. It was the quiet aftermath. Weeks later, we met at a sun-drenched cafe, the four of us. Not best friends forged in fire, but allies bound by a unique, shared trauma. We sipped coffee, shared war stories, the absurd lies we'd uncovered. He told me he was allergic to shellfish, then sent Sophie a pic of him devouring oysters. Compared notes on his performance. He used the exact same line about the glass house upstate with me. And laughed. Real laughter. Not the strained kind we'd used to survive James, but the genuine, slightly hysterical laughter of survivors. Anya secured the prestigious surgical fellowship in Boston. Fresh start, she said, raising her latte. No time for liars. Sophie sold her first major piece, a provocative installation titled Fractured Reflections, to a prominent gallery. Inspired by themes of deception and reconstruction, she winked. Isabel met someone, a quiet, kind history teacher who adored her and thought Ben hung the moon. He builds model airplanes with Ben, she said, her eyes soft. Real ones, not promises. And me? I sold the cold diamond. It fetched a surprising sum. I used the money to book a one-way ticket to Iceland. I stood on black sand beaches whipped by freezing wind, hiked across glaciers older than time, soaked in geothermal pools under the shimmering veil of the northern lights. I felt small, insignificant against the raw, ancient power of the landscape, and utterly, exhilaratingly free. The ice was colder than the diamond, but it was pure, cleansing. It reshaped the land, just as James had reshaped me. The structures I design now are different, stronger, with better foundations, deeper pilings driven into bedrock I know is real. James Carter? He became a ghost, a footnote, a name whispered with a scoff on dating forums. He tried to rebuild, popping up on obscure networking sites or attempting vague apology tours that fell flat. But his greatest fear, exposure, irrelevance, being seen for the hollow fraud he was, became his permanent reality. The master manipulator was finally, utterly powerless. The diamond was cold, the Icelandic wind was colder, but neither compared to the satisfying final chill of justice served not with a scream of rage, but with the silent unity of four women in cobalt blue, the click of four phones posting in unison, and the quiet strength of rebuilding a life, brick by careful brick, on ground leveled by truth. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction, it's revelation, and the freedom that comes after,